Hey, everybody, welcome to Hearing God in Titus chapter 2. And once again, the setting for our text is the Apostle Paul writing to his ministry assistant Titus, who was left at Crete to bring on elders, overseers, pastors for the church there and to set things in order. And as so often the case for these new churches, they were having to fight off the influence of false teachers. Well, here in chapter 2, my highlight is verse 14, but I'm going to share verse 13 as well because they go together. And it says in verse 13, we are waiting for our blessed hope, the appearing of the glory of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us to redeem us from all lawlessness and to purify for himself a people for his own possession who are zealous for good works. And it's that last phrase that I want to zero in on, that we are zealous for good works. This is to be a defining characteristic of the church at Crete, the church in Cadillac, and of all of God's family. All of his children are to be people who are zealous for good works. And that word zealous, looked it up in the dictionary, it's defined as showing great enthusiasm or energy in pursuit of a cause or objective. And so in this case, God's people are to have great enthusiasm, great energy for doing good. You know, what's interesting to me is that we often define sin in terms of what we're not supposed to do, right? So many of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not, you are not to do this, you are not to do that. And we can kind of look at the Christian life in those terms or through that lens that, hey, there's all these things we're not supposed to do, and that's what sin is if we do them. Those are known as sins of commission. But what we often fail to realize and take just as seriously is that there are sins of omission that are every bit as sinful. And James 4:17 lays it out this way for us. It says, so whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. And that's an entirely different angle on the situation as it relates to sin. So when we know the good that we ought to do and do not do it, again, that's every bit as sinful as when we are guilty of doing the things we know we're not supposed to do. So sins of commission are sinful, sins of omission are every bit as sinful. And so as I look at my own life, certainly there are times when I fall into those sins of commission and doing what I'm not supposed to do. But boy, there are probably more times, if I'm honest, that I'm guilty of those sins of omission. I know the good that God intends for me to do in a situation, but I don't do it. And I certainly don't do it zealously with that great energy and enthusiasm that is described here in Titus chapter 2. Rather, I can be apathetic. I can be just doing the bare minimum to get by, or just being lazy, when it comes to doing good. And when we look at the example of Jesus here on earth, we certainly see someone who didn't do the bare minimum or who was apathetic, but who went the extra mile to do what was good. And so I'm challenged by that, and perhaps you are as well. My response, Father, make me one who is committed to going beyond the bare minimum, to one who is willing to go the extra mile, to follow the example of Jesus in being zealous for good works. And so I hope that is your prayer today as well, as we consider our lives and we look at not only the sins of commission, but the sins of omission. And that we would be a church, that we would be a people who are zealous for doing good works. So have an awesome day. I look forward to joining with you soon in Titus chapter 3.